Oh my goodness.
Yay. I feel like I've been waiting for this day for the three of us to be here doing this episode for like forever. But it's really only been like a month, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I know. It came up quickly. When we booked it, I was like, oh, that's so far. And then it's like, oh my God, it's this week.
Here we are.
Oh my gosh, it's tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's this morning. It's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm here for it.
I am.
All
Me
right.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, lovely humans who have likely tuned in by now. Hello, we love you. We are here with you today with the marvelous, beautiful, radiant Amy Shearer. She is one of my besties. She's such an amazing human. And now that I have told you how much she means to my heart, I'll read you her official bio so that you know what's up and what we're talking about today. Because today we are talking about somatic nervous system healing. So somatic meaning within your body, because you know us, we're all for a mind, body, spirit alignment moment. So Amy is a clarity expert and nervous system guide. She's an emotional freedom techniques master and trainer. She's an embodiment coach focused on chronic stress recovery for the good girl and the people pleaser. She is also the CEO and founder of her coaching business called The Recreated. And Amy is currently, I think this is my favorite part of what you had in your bio, Amy. Amy is currently in her summer of fun. She's calling her 47th year her year of play. And she's here today to help us learn to play and find freedom in our own bodies through somatic healing of our nervous system.
Yes.
Hooray.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
Oh my. So welcome, Amy.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's so lovely to be here with the two of you and all your radiant energy. It's so beautiful. The pink microphone, the pink shirt, the unicorns, the flowers.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful spot to be in with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're a whole ass vibe.
Oh,
We know
absolutely.
it.
I'm here for it.
Well, we're here for your vibe because
absolutely.
I'll be so honest. The nervous system techniques that you have taught me just literally within the last 2 to 3 months have been so life-changing with who I get to be in my own life. Like, we just had my nephew come stay with us for a few days, which typically would make my nervous system just like frazzle and fritz out. Like, previously I would have had to like go have some serious alone time and just like dissociate from like my life. And I didn't have to do that because I knew your techniques and it felt so beautiful.
She was such a rock star. She was rocking it. It was.
Thank you.
You did such a good job. I was so impressed. For sure.
Well, we had a play date with my nephew and Ashley's kiddos and then another friend of ours and her kids. And so
there were 3 little boys. There was Ivan, or your nephew. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to say his name.
I think that's okay.
And how old is he?
He will be 7 in a month.
Wow.
So a 7 and then I think an 8 and my son who's 10. So we had boys running around and inside the house for the most part because it was, a little soggy that morning. So we were in the house for the most part. And there was so much volume with the dogs and with the boys. And there was just so much volume. And
so I was just
ruckus,
sitting here like,
just like
working my little ears.
Yeah, she was doing
my little the ear massage.
So good.
Good. Yeah. So all of those exercises are great because they're focused on the vagus nerve. And the more you support the vagus nerve, even if you don't know exercises in bringing you out of fight or flight or out of freeze, if you work with your vagus nerve consistently, you automatically expand your capacity for stressors in your life. So I know a lot of individuals are very focused on bringing themselves out of a state of activation. I don't call it trigger, I call it activation.
Sure, that makes sense.
Coming out of activation. But really, if you focus on your vagus nerve and toning your vagus nerve, your body will naturally regulate itself, right? And so it's pretty amazing, like just doing very simple daily exercises for yourself. You'll learn over time how you have created this greater capacity for the stressors. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have the option, especially with the course that you guys both have. If you're in a very highly activated state, there are options to bring you out of that state that are specific to if you are in your sympathetic state or in the dorsal vagal part of your parasympathetic state. There are ways to bring you back to that calm and content. But you'll notice that the more you work the vagus nerve, the less you'll need those additional exercises. I just came back from a family reunion. I haven't seen my family in 4 years because of COVID.
Right.
And a lot changes in 4 years.
Yeah.
So
much changes, right? And I actually, last time I was there was also for a family reunion. And I think a week before or several days before we showed up was my last day in retail. So my story is that I experienced extreme burnout from my executive position in fashion retail. I was in fashion retail for 15 years. And just thinking back to that place that I was in 4 years ago, I was obviously very exhausted. I was experiencing pretty extreme burnout. And I still felt highly activated by what I had left behind, right? Like I was still feeling very activated by the thought of even like working, my boss, like the whole system that I had been in. I was still such in a state of activation. And this time, even I was just describing to the two of you, getting to California from New York took 2 days. And that was because of the airlines and weather. And it was probably one of the worst airline experiences I've ever had. And I've traveled a lot. I noticed at one point at like 3 a.m. when we were stuck in Newark Airport that I was still relatively calm and content for what I had been through. And my husband even said, wow, that nurse stuff you've been doing really works. As he was highly activated, it was like, what? Just like,
yeah. Oh, we love it when a partner recognizes our feeling.
For sure.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, and there were a few other moments, my husband and I live in the mountains. We had a dog. We don't have children. It's just the two of us most of the time. And so going to a family reunion where there's 17 people.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot, right? And dogs and like, not a lot of young kids, but some of my family members still act like kids. So,
yeah.
I mean, we love an inner child moment.
Right?
We love a learning to evolve moment.
Yes.
Yeah. So there were moments where I responded in a way that was very different than I would have responded 4 years ago. And I felt like the time went by so slowly. I felt, even though there were things that were happening with business that I knew I would come back to, I didn't feel the urgency to like work the entire time, which is what I would have done before.
That's beautiful. That's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Allowed myself to just fully rest. And so sometimes, especially because I am kind of in this pretty protected bubble for my nervous system, because I'm no longer living in New York City. I live in the mountains and I don't really have a lot of activation in my life. Having that experience, I was like, oh, it's really nice to fully know in my body that the work that I've done has been successful, that it's showing, being shown that I have done a lot of great work. So it came at a beautiful time to kind of share that before this podcast, and then also kind of feel more deeply into that personal success and be able to share more of that story around. I'm sure that regulation happened long before, like I, traveled, but it's nice to be able to be a witness to your own healing in a way that's like really profound. Yeah.
So true. I was able to spend so much more quality family time with my nephew than I would have been before, by far, because I would have needed so many breaks just to regulate the old way, right? Mm-hmm. Like it took so much more time. And mm-hmm. when you want to talk about collapsing time like that, this healing does that.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm going to pause us for just a moment because I realized that our computer camera is the camera that we're using, not the other camera, because we're on Zoom.
Okay.
Well, this is like in front of my face. That's in front of your face. I'm just going to lift us up real quick.
All right. I was okay with this in front of my face today, but
well, so sorry.
I mean, it looks really official.
I was okay with it. It's funny, we're talking about all of this, working through things. On Sunday, this weekend.
Oh, hi.
So sorry.
No, friend. That's okay. No, that's fine. That looks great, actually. This weekend I work at a campground as a camp host, and we had a whole family fun day thing this weekend. Mm-hmm. And I was working outside. And when I was younger, I got heat stroke a couple times when I was a child. Mm-hmm. And I would constantly overheat. We lived on a lake. We did a lot of, and then we lived on the river. My parents boated a lot. We did a lot of outside things. And I just overheated a tremendous amount as a child. And I have been outside a lot more this summer than I have, I think, ever in my adult life. And like I was outside all day Saturday in the heat, like super hot heat. But I wasn't in the sun Saturday. And, I was drinking water and I was regulating myself for the most part. And then come to Sunday, we had an event outside. Mm-hmm. And I got us an umbrella, like a big 5-foot umbrella so we were in the shade. It wasn't UV proof and I didn't know that.
I mean, to be fair, they sold it as a beach umbrella. You would assume that it would be UV proof, but it was not.
It was so not. And I got really, really sunburned. But I was telling Kayla that day, I was like, I felt so proud of myself because I was like, I feel like I'm really building up my tolerance to the heat, like that I was able to withstand all of that heat on Saturday and then to be back out in the heat all of Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then a couple days later, I have heat rash just all up the whole side of and it's pretty miserable, but yeah. So, but I felt like I had really been working on it.
Well, and I feel like perhaps for your body to have a delayed response instead of an immediate response is still progress in how your body is able to feel safe during the heat.
Yes.
So I feel like you're still making progress.
I do too. I
am sorry that you got a heat rash.
I am pretty bummed about it also because it is uncomfortable.
Well, you just look rosy to me.
Well, thanks.
It doesn't even look sunburned. You just look rosy.
On this side, it's just.
Oh. The Aveeno oatmeal baths are really helpful. I wonder if you could make a mask, a compress for your face.
Okay.
I had this really weird virus. We didn't know it was a virus at the time. Mm-hmm. This was probably, I think it was in 2017 or 2017. And I gone to the gym. I came back. This is when I was still living in Brooklyn. And my back was super itchy. Mm-hmm. I'm really sensitive too. I I have rosacea. I have a lot of skin sensitivities. So it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I must have like, I don't know. I must have like touched something, you know, at the gym. Well, by the time I went to bed, it was this huge rash on my back. And I was like, okay. So I took a Benadryl,
Mhm.
stuff on it. And the next morning it had like creeped over my shoulders.
Oh.
It started to go down my my arms.
Oh
I was
no.
like, okay, I don't know what this is. Because it kind of looked like a heat rash, actually.
Yeah.
It was in the winter. It was like we actually had a blizzard that day.
Oh, wow.
And so I went to work and I was sitting in a meeting with my boss, and the rash moved down my arms and was creeping down my fingers. Like it was moving.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
And when it was done with an area, it would leave that area. So it was now not on
Oh.
my back. It was like moving over my body.
That's so
Wow.
weird.
So I went to the like, you know, walk-in clinic or something. The doctor was like, oh my God. Because by then it was like down my neck and my chest and my torso. It was starting to go down my legs. He's like, you're having an allergic reaction. And I was like, what? So they didn't give me anything. There was nothing to give me. So I bought those Aveeno oatmeal baths, and they
Mhm.
saved me. That rash
Oh,
lasted like 5 days
Oh, wow.
and went everywhere, like
Oh,
everywhere,
man.
Gosh.
like in my ears, down my
Yeah.
throat, on my
Oh,
scalp,
my
Oh
gosh.
man.
the bottoms of my feet.
Oh,
No.
man.
Yeah.
That's so uncomfy.
Yeah. It was weird, like
That
very
is-
weird. The
Mhm.
fact that it would move and like,
Yeah.
so anyway, I feel you big time.
Yeah.
Aveeno oatmeal baths.
All right. I will look into that for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mabel Designs by Ashley presents Happy Snail Mail, an opportunity that's fun for you, for your sweet nephew, or for your bestie Hannah who lives in Montana. Each month, Ashley designs a sticker, a coloring sheet bookmark, and a happy letter straight from her heart to yours. Ashley's snail mail spreads love, so either get love or give love, sweet friend. So, sweet Amy, can we kind of circle back around and talk about what the vagus nerve is? So now that we've talked about how we've kind of seen the impact of working with our vagus nerve in our lives, let's talk about perhaps what it is and what we can be doing to help tone.
Yeah. So your vagus nerve is the largest nerve of your parasympathetic nervous system. So it stretches from the back, starts at the back of your neck, wraps around your throat, goes down the front of your chest, and ends actually in your stomach. So the very bottom of the vagus nerve is actually called the enteric system. We don't really refer to it too much, but the vagus nerve is connected to your digestion. So if you have, I usually recommend to clients if they have digestive issues to really do vagal toning, because it will help with kind of both aspects of if you have a digestive issue. So it's enormous. It spreads all over your chest. This is why when you do breath work and you help to regulate with your breath, it'll impact your nervous system because it's directly related. And there's two parts of the vagus nerve. So the top part is the ventral vagal, which is kind of this area. And then the bottom part is the dorsal vagal.
Okay.
So the ventral vagal is kind of what we describe as being in that like calm and content kind of place. When most people refer to the parasympathetic nervous system, they're thinking of calm and content. You know, they're thinking of like bringing themselves into this place. But there are actually two parts of your vagus nerve and parts of your parasympathetic nervous system. And the dorsal vagal part of your nervous system, which is connected to the belly, when we experience chronic stress, so fight or flight, and that all comes through our sympathetic nervous system, which is through our spine. It also interacts a little bit with our stomach. When we experience that, that's when we have it repeatedly, we are in that chronic state. That's when we go into burnout. And typically when we're in burnout, we're in the dorsal vagal part of our system. So that's when people start to have digestive issues. We have really low energy because the parasympathetic nervous system, the part that usually helps us feel calm and content, is kind of pushed so far into this shutdown mode. It's like full on freeze. So your freeze system is actually part of your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, there's so many different ways of looking at it, but for the most part, because this vagus nerve is so connected to how we are able to calm ourselves and how we are able to kind of regulate our heart, we actually measure your vagal tone. So the strength, like if you're thinking about going and working out, toning your muscles, it's the same thing, toning this part of our nervous system. And we can actually measure how toned you are by your heart rate.
Oh, wow.
Shut up. That's okay. So now I want to know how toned I am.
Yeah, heart rate variability. So it's really scientific, but there's like a break that happens when you are, even when you're taking inhales and exhales. So your heart does these things that helps you to regulate, helps you to move in and out of different parts of your nervous system. I mean, your nervous system isn't static. Like you're not supposed to be calm and content all the time. That's not realistic. So over the course of the day, you are actually going in peaks and valleys throughout your nervous system. And how you're able to recover is measured by your heart. So we can measure your heart rate variability to know how toned you are.
So what's like the most toned and what's like the least toned for your heart rate variability?
Well, I don't know the most. I think it's 70 beats per minute, which is like the good heart rate variability. I don't know the least toned. I only know kind of what they measure as being good.
So 70 is a good place to be at. Okay.
Yeah.
And Kayla's like, now how do I check mine?
Yeah, no, honestly. So I have one of those. My brother-in-law got us one of those like oxygen monitors during COVID, but it also measures your heart rate. So that would be able to tell me, right? Yeah,
I think it's also the variability is a bit of a different measurement. So I can send that measurement to you. It's not the same as like your blood pressure. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
Which is kind of what you're measuring when you have one of those little finger things.
I mean, we know I love to bring in science when we can. So like if I can have like a metric that like, I don't know, ticks a box for my human brain.
Yeah.
She wants the sticker. She wants the gold star.
I want the gold star.
I know.
Well, another way to do it without the sticker and without using the little finger device is just to recognize how easily you come back into that place of feeling calm and content, right?
Naturally, without using like a little exercise.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm still on a journey with that, I think.
Yeah.
But you did so good this past weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Get ready, beautiful, because I've been writing a book and the universe just told me to shake a tail feather on getting it out into the universe. It's called Homecoming, the DIY self-love book. And I'm going to listen to the universe. I'm going to self-publish this as soon as I can. So keep an eye out for more details.
I mean, I think it's funny because I watched an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia last night with my husband. That's his favorite show. I never watch it.
Why?
Ironically, the episode we watched was about someone needing to support their blood pressure. One of the characters.
Oh.
I don't know any of the characters. For those of you listening, I don't watch it. But it was really interesting how they went about telling the story of how he was regulating his blood pressure. And the doctor was like, I'm going to put you on a prescription. I'm going to your blood pressure has been high the last 2 visits. He's like, I'm going to do this the natural way. So in case people are listening and they love Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I don't want to spoil it, but he did do it in the natural way. And one of the things that you learn in the episode is that he allowed himself to acknowledge and express what he was feeling in the moment and pause and say, okay, how do I support myself right now so I don't go into this high blood pressure state, right? So
I am so mad that I have to like this episode now, because that's like some groundbreaking shit that other TV shows don't put in.
I know. I was like, what? Right? I mean, I watch a lot of great shows, and I was like,
yeah,
this is wild that they're talking about this. So
yes.
Anyway, he had his iPhone watch was measuring his blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an iPhone watch, I don't know what they're called. iWatch, what are they called?
Yeah, I don't know.
Apple Watch.
Apple Watch.
Apple Watch. That's what it's called. iPhone watch. Yeah. Here I am, 48. Your Apple Watch, you can measure your blood pressure, and that it would be a nice way for you to know, like, how quickly do you come back into that state of calm and content, right? Which is about that variability. So when we're talking about vagal toning, we're really actually talking about toning this nerve, kind of like you would tone a muscle. And there are exercises that have been scientifically proven to support with that. A lot of individuals work on their vagal tone by doing really intense breathing and also doing cold plunges.
I love cold plunge now.
Well, Wim Hof, I think, that's the name of the breath work.
Yep, that's the dude.
He believes in like the cold plunge and the rapid breath, but that's not suitable for everyone. So it can be really helpful for some. Like at the end of my shower, I always blast cold water on my back, which helps to wake me up. Yeah. So it will help to like bring more energy into your system. But sometimes the breath, if it's really intense breath, it can actually put you in a deeper state of stress. So you just need to learn what feels right for your body. So
is that like the breathing in a paper bag, like the thing?
Well, I actually don't know about the breathing in the paper bag. I think that's for...
So sorry, Fred's just down here having a little bit of...
Fred.
He is having a hoot.
I mean, it's a similar breath, actually, to Wim Hof. It's like a very rapid breath. It's like...
Oh, okay.
That's so interesting, because every time I cold plunge, I don't like that breath. So I always try and slow it down. Like, and to me, that feels calm. Like if I can take deep breaths, that's where my body feels like it's in a calmer state.
That's why you tend to go in slow, because that one time you plunged, you did have to breathe faster.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you tend to go in slower.
Yeah.
My Band-Aids off slow too. I'd like to ease myself into it.
You do. But at the same time, you do some things much more like intensely, like do I? Like the Kundalini and stuff.
Oh, like, yeah. When it comes to energy work, just like get in there, get it all out.
See? So think of it like that.
Oh, well.
Okay. Energy work for your vagus nerve.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that works for a lot of individuals that need kind of a boost in energy, and you do feel really good after it. But because there's a lot of stress put on your neck when you're doing some of that, if it feels really tight in your neck when you're doing rapid breathing, or even the 3-part circular breath, which is actually also similar to the Wim Hof breath, it can cause a lot of strain and stress on your vagus nerve. So if somebody is in an extreme state of burnout, they're deep in their like dorsal vagal system, I actually don't have them do breath work. I wait until they've kind of gained a bit more capacity for energy in their body. Because it's like anything, like if you push too hard too fast, you'll kind of collapse, right?
Yes. That totally makes sense. Because I have a human who's really close to me that I know they're stressed out because they have told me this. I know they're in burnout because they have told me this. And their breathing tends to be really rapid and shallow. Yeah. So you would wait to do breath work with them for that. Okay, that makes total sense.
And it's interesting. I had a client who was like you just described. She was very she was, the signs of burnout are depression, apathy, distancing yourself kind of from everything, not really having a lot of drive or motivation, being physically exhausted, having a lot of digestive issues, not being able to sleep, but you are exhausted at the same time. And when we started, I was like, we're not going to do breath work. We're going to do the VOO exercise, and we're going to do.
I love a VOO.
And those two exercises helped her so much. Within 3 weeks, like her digestion was already so much better, right?
That's beautiful.
And then I was like,
you said VOO, and what was the other exercise?
The touch point meditation. So when you're feeling into parts of your body that are connecting with like your chair and the floor, and then you bring in some movement, right? Like you bring in really gentle movement to upregulate your system. Because when we're in that state of burnout, we need to do it really slowly, and we need to bring in energy into our body. But if we bring it in too fast, that's when we go right back into that burnout.
Because it stresses us out even more.
It's too
much for your body. Yeah.
Well, I know that I spoke about the VOO process on a past episode. But not everybody watches every episode.
Right.
So from my understanding, you do the tone, the VOO, for as long as your breath lasts, and you're supposed to do that like 6 to 10 times, one like every day for about 6 weeks. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah. I mean, if you do that, and as you're doing it, if you can like concentrate on what that vibration feels like inside your body. So when you do the VOO, feeling that vibration in your chest, feeling that vibration all the way down into your stomach, the sensing into your body, which is what we call interoception, that's actually what helps you regulate yourself, because you're bringing in greater awareness into your body. So by allowing yourself to feel into the vibration and the feeling that you get in your body with that vibration, that in itself helps to regulate you. And then what the toning is doing is it's helping to strengthen the response of that vagus nerve. So if you don't like VOO, you can do things like gargling, humming, anything to kind of activate.
I do like the humming bee.
Yeah. Anything you do to kind of activate this area will help strengthen your vagus nerve. Why we love the VOO is because it's working this whole area of your vagus nerve. Because the more you do it, the more you get into your belly.
Absolutely. Well, and if I'm recalling correctly, you said that there are more messages being sent from your belly up to your brain than there are from your brain down to your belly. So if you can use your belly to help tone your vagus nerve, then you can have an impact on your mind and your mindset too, that this is safe, we are okay.
Exactly.
That's so great. That's so great.
Because I love the shit that connects the body to the mind to the spirit, right? Like the more that we can understand that weaving those things together works to your benefit, the more holistic of a person you get to be.
Yes.
And we know I love it when you get to be all of your fucking self.
Yes. Yeah. It's amazing how and this is a huge part of the, somatic healing and feeling into the body and connecting with the body in a deeper way. The very first way we know how to understand life is with the body. Our primary language is our sensory language. Everybody has the same language, which is your sensory language. And at some point our mind is like, oh, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to take over now. Thank you so much for getting me through all of it. And, so much of what we think is creating stress in our lives, we can actually move through it in a better way if we just drop into our body and realize that we're safe, because your nervous system is a safety response system. Like that's what it is. It's here to tell us how to respond in terms of danger.
Absolutely.
And the way for us to help our mind realize that we're safe is by dropping into the body and being like, okay, I'm feeling the vibration from the VOO in my body. I'm concentrating on the fact that that is all that's present for me right now. I am in this space. I am safe, right? And then that all that information is sending up into your brain, because there are more nerve endings that go from your belly to your brain. And then it's like, oh, okay, we can calm down, right?
Right.
There's more to it, of course, because we want to go back to whatever happened right before you felt activated. There's something there. There's a pattern that was learned. There's emotions that are involved. I mean, all of the nervous system work is also emotional work, right? They go hand in hand. But for you to be able to feel regulated and calm in this moment, you got to go into the body. Thinking your way through it is just going to keep you ruminating, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you point out that there's also some sort of mental pattern behind that.
Right.
Because if I had to guess, the reason why when we had that like group play date with all the kids stressed me out in general is likely because I have a pattern of wanting to control things. And I don't always get to do that. And when you have so many littles in one room, right? Like, then it exponentially grows the quantity of things that you don't get to control.
Right.
And I think that's what sets me off. Like thinking about it right now, like my back right between my shoulder blades feels a little tighter, like me talking about not being able to control things. And I know that that comes from my past of being like emotionally abused, right? Like I didn't get to control many things because I chose subservience in the relationship. Like I want to like take responsibility for my behaviors in the relationship. I let myself take a back seat, and now all I want to do is control things, and I'm learning to surrender, and that's going really well right now, actually.
Good. Yeah.
That's interesting. That is really interesting. Because I can look at the situation and I know that when all the kids get together and they play really intensely like that, the thing that stresses me out for them is that I hope they're being kind to one another. Like I just really worry that they are going to leave somebody out and somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. And that's my wound, like that. And I know that. I can hear it in your voice, like, talking about it. I'm aware of that. And so I just, in those moments, I'm always keeping like half of an ear open to just make sure that there are kind words being spoken and like nobody is being rude. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like the chaos and the noise and the playfulness and the rambunctiousness, like that's all fine and dandy. It's the worry that somebody's feelings are going to get hurt or somebody's going to be left out, especially when there's 3, when there's an odd number or something like that. So that's my fear. That's my worry. That's what I stress about. That's so interesting. In those moments. Yeah. I wonder what would happen when I go a step deeper and ask myself, like, for what reason I need to be in control. Yeah. That'll be interesting one day when I ask myself that question. But I'll avoid it for right now.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you're talking about a specific moment where you felt activated, because just to move out of the vagus nerve specifically, your body was designed to process stress in a very specific way, just like an animal. I mean, essentially, we're animals, right? And so when you are exposed to a stimulus that activates you, and a stimulus is just something in your environment that is asking you to adapt, right? You have to respond to it. So be alert, pay attention, take it in. Right. So in that moment, for both of you, and it's interesting because you both were in the same room, but you were, what you were taking in was different, right? I'm sure you've talked about this, about like how your filters work. And when you take in sensory information, how your perception is based on your history, essentially, all of your experience. So it's the same with your response in terms of a stress response. So if you have a stressor, which for me in that situation, it would have been just the sound, Like I'm very
Yes.
sensitive to sound. So having a lot of sound is really tough for me. So that would have been my activation, is like, oh my God, it's so loud, you know? In those moments that were activated, like you feel it in the middle of your back, Kayla. That's when you're like, okay, so I'm feeling this tense tightness in my back. What does that energy need? You don't even need to label what it is. You don't even need to like connect it to an emotion or a story. You can just be like, I'm feeling this tightness and tenseness in the middle of my back. And then responding to it, like, okay, what do you need, middle of my back? And this all comes from spending more time with your body. Be like, oh, it needs me to push something, or it needs me to shake, or I need to like stretch or move my body in a certain way, or I need to go in the other room and pick up a pillow and scream. Like whatever it needs, it's going to tell you, because at this point, when I teach this, you've built a deeper connection to your body. And that's what we call mobilization. So the stress response cycle is you're activated, right? So that stressor came in and created an energy activation in your body. You mobilized it through some activity, like
a movement, a sound.
Right. Sound. Then you start to allow yourself to come out of that. Like you allow yourself to watch that energy leaving your body. So that energy that is leaving your body from your back, you're like, oh, that energy is dissipating. I'm releasing it. It's leaving my body. And you come into a place of restoration. You allow yourself to come into rest, whatever practice that would be for you. Maybe it's just focusing on, you know, your belly, like coming in and connecting to your belly for a few breaths. Maybe it's, you know, drawing something. Maybe it's humming to yourself, whatever it might be to bring you into a state of restoration. Maybe it's not doing anything. Maybe it's just sitting in silence, right? And then after that, it's about like, okay, am I ready to look at what created that activation? You're not doing it. Yeah, you're not doing it when you're activated.
I love that. And adding that reflection piece on the end, I feel like is so important, because then you, again, add that mental component back in. You're connecting what you've done with your body back up to your mind. And I think that that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I find that a lot recently, my regulating, like the thing that my body needs to do is just go, ah! Like I'm in a Peanuts cartoon, just like screaming, ugh, right?
Yes.
Like, and I don't always love doing that, because it's such like a vocal look at me thing. Like when someone makes a noise, like everybody pays attention to that. I tend to like the quiet things. But my body is wanting me to make noise, and my tarot cards keep telling me to use my voice.
That's right. Use your voice.
So I'll just keep opening up that throat chakra, you know.
That's right.
That's good. Yeah.
Maybe try to sing it.
No, it needs to be guttural.
It's a guttural.
It needs to get right here.
All right. It is. All right.
Well, if you've held back and resisted for so long, right, in expressing yourself.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Fine, that might be me. I'm on a journey. It's okay.
That's right.
We're fixing it now.
That's right.
You know what's the best? Hanging out together with each other even more. Ashley and I would love to invite you to join the Back Pocket Besties Club for $5 a month on Patreon. You'll receive ride-along adventure vlogs, a sticker designed by Ashley or by me, a meditative self-love mini retreat, a DIY self-love course for your inner magic, 1 free month of Ashley's snail mail subscription, behind-the-scenes posts, and sweet, sweet community on the inside. And if you want even more goodness, you could join the Doing Life Together Club for $11 a month. And in addition to everything you just heard, you'll also get Ashley's snail mail subscription sent to you every single month. We can't wait to see you on the inside.
Well, it's interesting about the voice. Like when I was taking when I was learning all about the stress response cycle, what I just explained, we did voice exercises for an entire day. It was amazing.
I love that.
And my teacher was explaining the voice. He's like, think of the voice as another, like appendage, like an arm or a leg. Think of your voice as an extension of you, like another part of you that's extending, like it's extending out of you, right? And like,
I know, I just imagined like an octopus tentacle, like reaching out.
Or like the alien coming out of the chest.
Yes.
But it was actually beautiful because what pretty much everybody did for the first exercise was they kind of restricted themselves. They kept themselves really safe. They didn't really do a lot of vocalization. Like they were like, when I was one, I was like, oh yeah, I'm making noise. And he's like, no, you're not. Right. You know? And he was like, if it helps you, ask the space, ask your room, like to welcome your voice, to create space for your voice. And it was amazing that just by doing that everyone they felt like they had permission to express and belted stuff out, right? And so many people were crying, like I was crying because we finally felt that permission. Yeah, we finally felt that permission to express our voice.
That's so cool. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I would love for you to draw your voice appendage.
I am scared of that idea.
I think it would be
why.
I think it would be beautiful.
Well, let me practice Amy's thing.
Yes.
A couple of times. And
For
then maybe
sure.
we'll move into drawing it.
I think that would be so fun.
Yeah.
I think drawing your voice appendage would be beautiful. I see it
It has
swirling
feathers. It has feathers.
and it's shimmery.
As feathers.
It does. We'll figure that out.
It's beautiful.
It's like confetti, but feathers instead.
I love that. I imagine like flowers. Like,
I love
yes.
that.
yeah.
Mine is swirly.
I like that for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that aspect of the voice. I wanted to circle for a moment back to like doing the more tactile body things, because not everybody has like a defined throat chakra and like uses their voice.
Yeah, I don't, but
I was watching this TikTok, like we do as humans now. And it was talking about how all the like little weird behaviors we do as children
this is the one I sent you.
probably.
Yes.
We get trained away from them.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
like just shaking your hands for a minute.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
a mom might say like, hey buddy, don't do that in public, or like now's not the time for that. And all of these
Would you just stand still?
all of these body
Could you just
regulation
be quiet?
tools that we have get kind of like taught out of us by a very neurotypical desire to fit in and not stand out, when in reality, as kids, like all the kids are doing weird shit. Like, why can't we all just be weird?
Instinctually, right? They're doing it instinctually.
Right. And we get disconnected from that instinct.
Yes.
I mean, you don't see the doe. I was trying to think of what a female deer is. The doe telling her fawn, "Oh, don't shake your body after you just, ran away from a predator," right?
Right.
Like, allow yourself to release that energy, because that's what they do. Like you'll actually even notice it in your dogs. Like if they're they might tremble a little bit and like release that energy and shake it out.
And what's funny is that I'll tell my dogs, good job, like good shake, buddy, or good yawn, sweetie. Like you did it, Big Bird. Like good job.
I say that to my bird, and now my bird says it back to me.
Oh, I love
so
that.
like I know that that's a releasing stress response for dogs. So I love that we're now talking about how that gets to be a release of a stress for humans, because we know it as kids. It just got trained out of us, and we're bringing it back, baby.
Absolutely.
That's right. And like that's a mobilization. The one that I see the most happen the most, and even with people that know this stuff, which is kind of amazing, is crying. Right.
Yes.
And so many times I hear a parent say, "Oh, don't cry. Shh, don't cry. Don't cry. It's okay. Everything's fine." And it's like, they're all very well intentioned, right? Like
Absolutely.
just
It
trying
comes
to
from
help them
love.
feel safe.
Yes.
But it does build this memory of like, oh, expressing myself through tears, I shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, crying as a mobilization is probably one of the best things you can do, because when you cry, you also release a chemical which helps to self-soothe, right? Like
Yes.
it's a self-soothing mechanism. That's why we cry. Crying is beautiful. And so I always encourage parents to say, actually, if you just hold them, like if you just embrace them and let them cry for like 3 minutes, or usually that expression will dissipate within like a few minutes if you just allow it to come out, right? And that is their mobilization. That's how they needed to mobilize whatever was in their system, right? So crying, and I see this a lot with men, right? Like they don't allow themselves to express themselves that way. And that is definitely a conditioning that many of us have experienced. So
yeah. Well, because
crying is good.
you get called a crybaby or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
crying is for everyone. And
Yeah.
like, I have people very close to me who like on purpose listen to sad songs or sad movies
Yeah.
to make themselves cry
Yes.
because they know that they need to.
That's
And I
what-
think that's beautiful.
My roommate in college, my freshman year, before finals week, like, you know how you have like dead week,
Oh yeah.
the week before finals week, where you don't have like classes or whatever, you just are studying for finals. During dead week, both semesters, we watched Armageddon because we knew it was just gonna like make us cry, because we knew like we were stressed out, and we just like, we were like, we need, like, I was like, I'm not somebody who's gonna go to the gym and like work out a ton and just like release it that way. I was like, you know what though? I will watch Armageddon and I will sit here and I will sob.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We did it both semesters, and man, Armageddon for the win. Man.
I love that. And I watched the Dodo videos for that very same reason too.
Dodo videos always get you. That's so
Yes.
true.
Yeah. If you saw my Instagram, when you go to like search or whatever, and it brings up like the feed that feels right for you, 99% of it is either a panda bear or a dog.
Yes.
Typically a pit bull or a golden retriever.
Yeah.
So that's where I go to not necessarily cry for sadness, but to cry into that feeling of like deep gratitude and joy. It's a beautiful way to connect with that energy for me. But there was a movie once called Broadcast News. I'm definitely aging myself. I think it may have been like an early 90s movie.
Okay.
And it was really interesting because it was about a very successful news broadcaster. I'm pretty sure it was a news broadcaster. And she seemed like she had it. Well, she did. She had it all together. Like she was high performing, high functioning, like had everything under control, all of that stuff. And the movie showed her like scheduling, like having specific time to just cry, right?
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Like she would just go and sit and turn everything off and sit in her room and just sob, like let it all out. And then she had moved everything through after a few minutes, you know what I mean? And that was her way of release. Like that was her way of getting out the anxiety, all of the stuff that she probably just shoved away, but she came back to it. Like she came back to that energy, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important piece of the conversation, especially for people who are like in the corporate world and it's not appropriate to cry at work. And you do have to like, for your own safety, like shove your feelings down. I think creating then intentional space, like on your drive home, pull off at a park. Like if you don't want to like take it home to your husband or kids or partner or roommates, like just pull off, have Kleenexes in your car, just give yourself some space to do that.
Right.
because your self-safety matters too, right?
Yes.
I'm in a phase in my life where I'm letting myself feel all of my emotions as they come up for me.
Mhm.
And that feels really good. And also, I'm not in charge of a classroom of kids anymore, where it would be inappropriate and I don't even know if I agree with what I just said, that it would be totally inappropriate to feel a feeling in front of a child, because then you're just teaching them that it's okay to feel feelings as an adult. So I have a little thinking to unpack there, but like in some context, it is not appropriate because you might scare a child more, perhaps.
Yes.
So,
and even when I was teaching 4th grade, there were times where I would feel my feelings with my class and we would talk about it, because
beautiful.
There is so much to the socio-emotional learning that those sweet little lives needed to be taught, because I was teaching them as a whole human. I was not just teaching them reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Right.
But therein is a major part of why I got burned out and left teaching, because what I was loving a whole human child and trying to teach that the whole human child.
And you can't do that.
And you can't do that
29 and not get burnt out.
Anyway.
Well, 2 things. One, the sharing of experience and the expression of feeling is a way that you help to regulate yourself. I mean, that is what we learn to regulate from our parents, right? We learn to regulate our emotions and our nervous system from our parents. And we absolutely need to co-regulate with others. Like the need for connection is one of our primary needs. That's what helps us to feel safe, right? When we're younger and we don't have that feeling of connection in our immediate surrounding given to us by our caregiver, we adapt and find ways to have that connection so we can feel safe. So that's when some of the personality traits of like adapting your own needs to fit someone else's, like becoming a people pleaser, or you learn to recognize, oh, when I get really good grades, I get a lot of, hugs and like acknowledgement and like a lot of people telling me I'm amazing. So I'm going to really push hard to be really good at everything. Right. Or you realize that
you're really seen.
But I did all of those things.
Me too.
But my parents my parents still didn't even
sorry, boo-boo.
care a whole lot, because like I was just the easy kid and they were like, phew.
Well, that's also, you were like, I'm the easy kid, so I'm not going to be, maybe that was your way of feeling safe. Like
I just wasn't in trouble. I just didn't get in trouble.
Right. Yeah. So these are all ways that we learn to adapt, right? Yeah. And actually, that's what creates the burnout. That's what
are those weird backwards twisty adaptations. Totally. That makes sense.
It's not even about like when I talk, sorry, I have to shift my back.
No, you're totally good.
When I talk to people about, I'm so burned out by my job. Okay, let's talk about that environment. Because sure, like there's usually something untenable, right? Because you've been persistently trying to maybe change that or allow yourself to feel like you fit into that. But it comes down to these very old behaviors of finding ways to feel connection and to feel like you belong and to feel safe.
Yes.
And that's what it comes down to. People that are burnt out, people that are just like always adapting to others, they get burnt out. The people that are like very secure and had a really secure upbringing, they can just go and like they know what to do for themselves. They honor themselves in their life, right? And that can all be fixed.
Good for them. I'm so glad they didn't have to do all the things that we're doing to figure it out. To like keep our heads above water.
I'm trying real hard to raise a couple of those.
Yeah, you are. You're doing so good, Mama.
Thanks.
Well, that comes into like, all the attachment theories, and the people that are kind of in that category have that secure attachment where they can, be in the environment of their parents, but they don't have to be like anxious around them, trying to like fit in. They can see them and be like, hi dad, hi mom, and then continue playing on their own. There's a great study about it. But you can actually become secure. And
I know, I just watched a TikTok about it. It was like how to know that you're developing a secure attachment style. And I was like, oh, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Send it to me. Send it to me.
And it takes this work, right? Like it takes the work that you're doing, feeling safe in your body, letting your body know that you're safe. So you can start to process some of the stuff that you haven't really had an opportunity to look at before because you've been in a constant state of vigilance. And that's really the work. That's what it comes down to. And
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like we should do an episode on self-safety sometime.
Yes.
Because that's how you help yourself move mountains, collapse time for yourself. Like,
yes, moving out of hypervigilance and into self-safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So in our last minute, I guess, because I want to respect your time and I know you've got another meeting to float off to. Is there anything, Amy, that you think needs saying that didn't get said yet?
I think the biggest thing is the most important part, if anything resonated with you with what I shared, the first step is really showing yourself some compassion. And, if you are in a state of hypervigilance, if you are in a state of burnout, if you are somebody that doesn't know where you are,
yes,
like that's where I was. And the most important thing is that everything you've done up until this point has been absolutely right. Like you've done everything that you've needed to do to feel safe, and offer yourself that compassion, because it really is about compassion. It really is, when it comes down to the practices of holding space for yourself, for your nervous system, for your emotions, learning to honor the things that you learned from your past. It all comes down to you feeling compassionate for yourself. And when you do that, it becomes an extension to the environment around you. You become compassionate with other people, because how can you heal yourself and like go through all of the work that you've done and not be compassionate for the other people in the world that are doing or perhaps may need to do the same thing? And
yes.
So I just wanted to say that, like, give yourself some grace. You don't need to know all the answers. You can start small. You can start with one thing. I started with transcendental meditation. That's how I started this work. And it has served me very, very well. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Beautiful.
That's fantastic.
I love that.
I love it.
Feels so good.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Part of me is like a little sad that it's over.
Mhm.
I've been looking forward to this podcast
Yes.
for so long.
So long.
So maybe we might have to have you back, Amy, because you are just so chock full of wisdom.
Yes.
We're so grateful that
Aw.
you came to speak to our audience.
Yes. Where can everybody find you? We will put your links in for sure, but can you tell the people where to find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. It's at @the_recreated_. And then my website is therecreated.com. And I'm going to send you a link to the preview for the nervous system course that they can explore and look at and see if it's right for them. So you'll have that. And
you guys listening and watching, I highly recommend Amy's nervous system course. It's got all the things that I've been using that helped me have so much success with my family this past week. And I seriously, I can't recommend it.
Yes.
It's so good.
And I've just scratched the surface and I'm in love with it already.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Good.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'm
Thank
so,
you so much.
So grateful for you.
I'm so
Okay. I love you so much, Amy. You're the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a marvelous day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.